In the golden age of Hollywood, the studios sold the public a fantasy, but the reality was far more scandalous than any script. These weren't just rumors. Joan Crawford kept a legendary black book of her conquests. Elizabeth Taylor's affair with Richard Burton was condemned by the Vatican, and Tallulah Bankhead threw parties that would make a Roman emperor blush. Behind the gates of the Dream Factory, desire was currency, the bedroom was a boardroom, and these 15 women were the most powerful players in the game. Star number 1, Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was not a woman who was given anything. She took everything she ever got. Born Lucille LeSueur into desperate poverty, she forced the persona of Joan Crawford from pure, unadulterated willpower. On screen, she was the epitome of enduring glamour, a professional who hit her marks and knew her lines. Off-screen, she was an armored strategist in a lifelong war for stardom, and she knew exactly which battles to fight between the sheets. Crawford's ambition was legendary, and many in Hollywood believe she used her libido as a tool for advancement. At MGM, her list of lovers was set to include nearly every powerful man on the lot, from a young Clark Gable to the highest-ranking studio executives. The gossip was so intense that it spawned the enduring rumor of a black book detailing her conquests. This reputation led rivals to bitterly claim that Joan didn't get ahead on the casting couch. She owned the casting couch and charged admission. Her relationships began to visibly reverse the typical Hollywood power dynamic. As she grew older and more powerful, she famously pursued affairs with a string of younger, beautiful actors, turning the tables on a system where powerful men had always treated starlets as disposable. For many observers, these affairs seemed less about passion and more about power, a clear statement of control. She wasn't just surviving in a man's world. She was demonstrating that she could run it, one conquest at a time. Star number 2, Tallulah Bankhead. With a voice like gravel and bourbon and a wit that could slice through steel, Tallulah Bankhead was an aristocrat of scandal. The daughter of a powerful Alabama politician, she moved through Hollywood not as an actress, but as a force of nature. She made no apologies for her appetites, her language, or her life, greeting everyone from stagehands to royalty with her signature, "Hello, darling." For her, the rules of polite society were merely suggestions to be ignored. Tallulah was famously and loudly bisexual, in an era when such a thing was unthinkable for a public figure. Her list of alleged lovers included Greta Garbo, Marlene Dietrich, and a host of Hollywood's leading men. Her parties were the stuff of legend, hedonistic affairs where the city's elite could shed their inhibitions. She addressed her vices with the same shocking honesty, famously quipping, "Cocaine isn't habit-forming. I should know. I've been using it for years." While other stars hid their affairs behind studio publicists, Tallulah advertised hers. Her promiscuity wasn't a dirty secret. It was an essential part of her public persona, a defiant roar against the manufactured purity of the 1930s and 40s. Her power came from her radical, shocking honesty. She forced the world to accept her entirely on her own terms, proving that a woman could be utterly scandalous and still be a magnificent star. Star number 3, Lana Turner. She was the ultimate Hollywood discovery story. A beautiful teenager spotted at a soda shop and transformed into the iconic Sweater Girl. The studio meticulously crafted Lana Turner's image as the wholesome, blonde dream girl every GI wanted to come home to. She was stunningly beautiful, accessible, and the perfect fantasy. But behind the scenes, Lana's real life was a chaotic and passionate soap opera that no screenwriter would dare invent. Lana's search for love was a public spectacle, a whirlwind of passion that left a trail of broken hearts and 8 marriages in its wake. Her list of lovers reads like a hall of fame of Hollywood alpha males. Bandleader Artie Shaw, actor Tyrone Power, and the volatile Frank Sinatra, to name just a few. She fell in love with a furious intensity, and her constant romantic dramas kept the tabloid press in business for decades. Lana's power wasn't in wielding her sexuality strategically. It was in her incredible resilience. The press tried to brand her as a tramp, a homewrecker, and a fool for love, but she refused to be shamed. After every messy divorce and scandalous affair, she would reappear on screen, more glamorous and desirable than ever. She turned her turbulent personal life into part of her mystique, proving a true star could survive anything. Number 4, Ava Gardner. MGM famously dubbed her the world's most beautiful animal, and for once, the studio's marketing was an understatement. Ava Gardner possessed a raw, earthy sensuality that seemed too wild to be contained on a movie screen. She was a North Carolina sharecropper's daughter with the profane vocabulary of a sailor and the face of a goddess. From the moment she arrived, Hollywood knew she was a beautiful problem they could never solve. Ava's love life was as fiery and untamable as she was. Her tempestuous marriage to Frank Sinatra was a legendary brawl of passion, but she also had torrid affairs with billionaire Howard Hughes and famed Spanish bullfighter Luis Miguel Dominguin. She lived by her own rules, drinking, swearing, and loving with an abandon that terrified the studio. She once went for a spontaneous skinny dip on Ernest Hemingway's pool, who then reportedly ordered that the water never be drained again. Ava's ultimate power move was walking away from the game entirely. Fed up with the hypocrisy and control of Hollywood, she moved to Spain, where she could live freely. She chose a life of bullfights, flamenco, and passion over film roles and studio contracts. She was one of the few stars who had the courage to tell Hollywood she didn't need it, proving that true power was the freedom to live on her own terms. Star number 5, Clara Bow. Before Marilyn Monroe, there was Clara Bow, the original it girl of the silent film era. She was a human firecracker, the embodiment of the roaring 20s with her bobbed hair, Cupid's bow lips, and boundless energy. She wasn't just an actress, she was a cultural phenomenon whose on-screen vivacity was magnetic. But it was her off-screen life that would define her and destroy her. In a Hollywood that was already wild, Clara's reputation was legendary. The most infamous rumor, one that has persisted for a century, was that she entertained the entire 1927 University of Southern California football team. While likely an exaggeration, the story stuck because it fit her uninhibited persona. Her fate was sealed when a disgruntled former secretary published a tell-all account in a tabloid, detailing a life of voracious sexual appetites that shocked a nation. Clara was one of the first victims of modern celebrity culture, a woman whose authentic, free-spirited nature was her greatest asset and her ultimate downfall. Her power was an uncontainable energy, but she was punished for it by the same public that adored her on screen. She was a pioneer of sexual freedom who was simply too modern for her time. A cautionary tale of what happened when a woman dared to live freely as a man. Star number 6, Marlene Dietrich. With her heavy-lidded gaze, androgynous fashion, and smoky, German accented voice, Marlene Dietrich was unlike anyone Hollywood had ever seen. She projected an aura of sophisticated, continental mystery, a woman who knew all the world's secrets and was bored by most of them. On screen, she was an untouchable goddess. In reality, she was the master of her own, very busy universe. Marlene was openly bisexual and conducted her love life with the cool precision of a field marshal. Though married to one man, Rudolf Sieber, for over 50 years, their relationship was an open one. Her list of lovers was staggering and included both men and women, such as John Wayne, John F. Kennedy, Edith Piaf, and likely Greta Garbo. She allegedly kept meticulous records, treating her affairs less as scandals and more as a collection. Dietrich's power was her absolute self-possession and her utter disregard for conventional morality. Her affairs weren't messy, passionate entanglements. They were arrangements conducted on her own terms, often with the full knowledge of her husband. She created her own moral code, separate from society's, and lived by it without apology. This intellectual control over her life and image made her one of the most truly liberated women of the century. Star number 7, Barbara Peyton. Barbara Peyton exploded into Hollywood with the face of a Botticelli angel and the appetites of a back-alley brawler. Her carnal beauty was so potent that it seemed destined to make her a major star. But it quickly became clear that Barbara was more interested in collecting men than collecting movie roles. Her ambition wasn't for the screen. It was for the chaos she could create in her own life. Her life became a public train wreck, gleefully chronicled by the tabloids. The peak of her notoriety was a sordid love triangle with actors Tom Neal and Franca Tone. Her affections for both men led to a brutal, headline-making fistfight that left Tone hospitalized with a smashed cheekbone and a broken nose. Peyton seemed to revel in the drama, cementing her reputation as Hollywood's most dangerous bad girl. Barbara's story is Hollywood's darkest cautionary tale. Her power was her raw, untamed desire, but she lacked any mechanism to control it. The same fire that made her magnetic ultimately incinerated her life. Her tragic descent from a promising starlet to a destitute streetwalker on Sunset Boulevard is a horrifying testament to what happened when a woman's appetites, without the protection of power or money, consumed her whole. Star number 8, Hedi Lamar. Billed by MGM as the most beautiful woman in the world, Hedi Lamar's stunning face was both her key to Hollywood and her prison. The world was so mesmerized by her looks that they failed to see the brilliant, restless mind trapped behind her perfect features. She was an exotic beauty, but she was also bored out of her mind by the simplistic world of movie making and the men who ran it. To combat her chronic boredom, Hedi embarked on a series of 6 marriages and countless affairs, always searching for a man who could match her intellect. Her lovers included Howard Hughes and a host of other powerful figures, but none could hold her interest for long. She once famously said, "Any girl can be glamorous. All you have to do is stand still and look stupid." A line dripping with the contempt she felt for her own public image. Hedi's greatest secret, and her ultimate power move, had nothing to do with her love life. While Hollywood was gossiping about her latest affair, she was in her trailer, co-inventing a secret communication system. This groundbreaking frequency-hopping technology, designed to help defeat the Nazis, would become the foundation for modern Wi-Fi, GPS, and Bluetooth. Her true passion wasn't for any man, but for science, a secret she kept while the world saw nothing but her face. Star number 9, Jean Harlo. Jean Harlo was the original blonde bombshell, the woman who invented sex appeal on the silver screen. With her platinum hair, wisecracking delivery, and slinky satin gowns, she was a new kind of female star. Tough, funny, and unapologetically sensual. She wasn't a damsel in distress. She was the kind of woman who caused distress in others, and audiences loved her for it. Her short life was a lightning storm of scandal and tragedy. Her second husband, the much older producer Paul Byrne, died from a gunshot wound just 2 months into their marriage. The studio called it a suicide, but rumors of foul play and Byrne's alleged impotence have persisted for decades. In the midst of this enormous scandal, Harlo brazenly began a very public affair with boxer Max Baer, proving that she would not be bowed by tragedy. Harlo's power was her incredible defiance in the face of circumstances that would have destroyed a lesser woman. Instead of hiding after her husband's shocking death, she threw herself into her work and a new, high-profile romance. She projected an image of unbreakable, almost reckless strength. Her life was chaotic and tragically short, but she never once let the Hollywood machine or the public see her break. Star number 10, Rita Hayworth. As the star of Gilda, Rita Hayworth became the ultimate love goddess, a femme fatale who could drive men to madness with a single glove removal. This image was one of the most powerful in cinema history. But the woman behind the fantasy, Margarita Cancino, was a shy, gentle soul who was forced into the spotlight by a domineering father and a predatory studio system, forever searching for the love her on-screen persona would have scorned. Rita's desperate search for love played out on a global stage, leading her through 5 turbulent marriages and a string of well-publicized affairs. Her husbands included filmmaking genius Orson Welles and the incredibly wealthy Prince Ali Khan, a union that turned her into real-life royalty. She once famously and sadly remarked, "Men go to bed with Gilda, but wake up with me," perfectly capturing the tragedy of her life. Rita Hayworth's story isn't one of empowerment through sexuality. It's a tragic story of being imprisoned by it. Her power was the fantasy she projected, but that fantasy trapped and ultimately consumed her. Her endless romantic escapades weren't a grab for power, but a heartbreakingly public cry for the simple, genuine affection she was denied her entire life. She was the love goddess who never truly found love. Star number 11, Dolores Del Rio. With her sculpted, aristocratic features and graceful presence, Dolores Del Rio was one of the very first Latin American superstars in Hollywood. The studios marketed her as an exotic, refined beauty, a piece of living art. But beneath the serene exterior was a woman of formidable intelligence and a master strategist who understood the Hollywood power game better than the men who invented it. Dolores wielded her allure like a royal scepter, attracting some of the most powerful men of her time. Her famous lovers included the genius director Orson Welles, who was utterly infatuated with her, and the world-renowned muralist Diego Rivera. The boy wonder Welles may have been conquering Hollywood, but it was Dolores he pursued relentlessly, a testament to her magnetic power over men of both genius and influence. Her true power was her immaculate control over her own narrative. While other stars' affairs were descended into messy public scandals, Dolores conducted her romantic life with the cool, quiet discretion of a diplomat. She was never the victim or the gossip column fodder. She was the elegant patron, the mistress of her own exclusive world. She proved that true class was the ultimate form of power. Star number 12, Anita Eberg. The Swedish-born Anita Eberg was less an actress and more a cinematic event, immortalized by her magnificent, middle-of-the-night waiting in Rome's Trevi Fountain and Federico Fellini's La Dolce Vita. She became an international symbol of hedonism and voluptuous living. She wasn't playing a part. She was simply being herself, a force of nature that Hollywood could only stand back and watch in awe. Anita's reputation off-screen was even more formidable than her presence on-screen. She collected lovers with a joyous and apologetic gusto, with a list that included Hollywood's titans like Errol Flynn, Jewel Brenner, Frank Sinatra, and the head of Fiat, Gianni Agnelli. She was completely unashamed of her appetites, once haughtily declaring, "It was I who made Fellini famous, not the other way around." Anita's power was her utter indifference to the Hollywood game. She preferred the sweet life, or La Dolce Vita, in Rome, far from the tyrannical gaze of the American studio system. She wasn't interested in building a respectable career. She was interested in living a magnificent life of indulgence. Her power move was to choose pleasure over propriety, proving that the best revenge on a judgmental world is living well. Star number 13, Elizabeth Taylor. With her shocking violet eyes and a beauty that seemed almost inhuman, Elizabeth Taylor was Hollywood royalty from childhood. She didn't just become a star, she was born one, growing up in the public eye. It was almost inevitable, then, that her love life would become the most sensational, high-stakes drama of the entire 20th century, a spectacle that would captivate the entire world. Her life was a cascade of scandal. She had 8 marriages to 7 different men, but it was her affairs that shook the world. She famously stole singer Eddie Fisher from her best friend, America's sweetheart Debbie Reynolds, becoming the most famous homewrecker on the planet. This was immediately followed by her affair with Richard Burton on the set of Cleopatra, a scandal so enormous, so public, and so passionate that it was officially condemned by the Vatican as erotic vagrancy. Elizabeth's power was her complete and utter refusal to be ashamed. She lived her life at maximum volume, wearing her scandals like the crown jewels she so adored. She didn't just endure the bad press, she thrived on it, turning her life into the world's greatest soap opera and daring the public to look away. She wasn't just a star caught in a solar system, she was the sun, and everyone else was simply caught in her gravitational pull. Star number 14, Mae West. Mae West was not just a movie star, she was a one-woman cultural revolution. In an era of strict censorship, she was a master of the double entendre, a brilliant writer who built an entire career on her suggestive wit and an hourglass figure. She didn't just play a confident, sexually liberated woman on screen. She invented that archetype and then lived it with relish. Mae's personal philosophy was too much of a good thing that can be wonderful, and she applied it directly to her love life. Though she had a long-term partner, she never remarried and enjoyed a lifelong string of lovers, with a particular fondness for young, muscular bodybuilders whom she entertained well into her 80s. When a coat check girl exclaimed, "Goodness, what a diamond!" Mae famously retorted, "Goodness had nothing to do with it, dearie." Mae West's power was that she was the puppet master of her own fame and fortune. She battled the censors, wrote her own smash hit plays and films, and invested her money wisely, becoming incredibly wealthy. She took the very thing that was used to shame other women, an active and unapologetic sex life, and commercialized it, turning it into a multi-million-dollar empire. She was never the joke. She was always the one telling it. Star number 15, Joan Collins. Long before she became the iconic Alexis Carrington on Dynasty, a young Joan Collins was one of Hollywood's original British bad girls. With her sharp wit, smoldering good looks, and a take-no-prisoners attitude, she refused to play the part of the demure, obedient starlet. She arrived in Hollywood ready to play the game on her own terms, and quickly earned a reputation as a woman who would not be easily managed. Her early years in Hollywood were a whirlwind of high-profile affairs with some of the industry's most famous leading men, including Dennis Hopper, Harry Belafonte, and a very famous engagement to the notoriously promiscuous Warren Beatty. Far from being a victim of these playboys, Joan gave as good as she got, documenting her entire romantic escapades in a series of blockbuster tell-all memoirs later in life. She refused to let her past be a source of shame. Joan's ultimate power move is her incredible longevity and her mastery of her own narrative. She outlasted her critics her early rivals, and most of her lovers. She took the Scarlet Woman reputation from her youth and brilliantly transformed it into the role of a lifetime, becoming a global icon of glamorous, unapologetic power. Joan Collins proved that a woman who owns her past, no matter how scandalous, always gets the last laugh. These 15 women were combatants on the brutal battlefield of Hollywood. They fought with every weapon they could find. For some, it was their raw desire and sensuality. For others, a brilliant mind, a sharp wit, or ruthless business acumen, while the gossip columns only saw the bedroom. Their power was also forged in laboratories, in boardrooms, and on the stages they commanded. Their stories are not just about a quest for passion or control. They're about the defiant, often desperate, struggle for something more fundamental. The studio publicists and gossip columnists of the day used one word to describe these women: promiscuous. It was a word meant to shame them, to reduce their complex lives to a single, damning label. But looking back now, through the lens of history, perhaps a better word would be rebellious. They dared to claim the same sexual freedom that their male co-stars took for granted. And they faced the consequences with their heads held high. The golden age of Hollywood is over, but its secrets are not. The names of these women were once whispered in scandal, but today they stand as icons of a defiant, unapologetic femininity. So, did you know the real, unfiltered stories behind these glamorous legends? Or did you believe the fairy tale that studios wanted you to see? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden Hollywood history.